Hey everybody, it's the midweek edition of Weather for Weather Geeks. It's the most in-depth weather forecast video you're going to find for our area anywhere on TV or the internet or anywhere else where you might be looking. Let's start our daily deep dive into all things weather here locally with a graphic that we sometimes show at this time of the year. We're getting into the time of the year where everybody's thinking spring, and hey, have we seen our last frost and freeze of the season? Now, when we look back at climatology, the 30-year average last 32-degree temperature at the Youngstown Warren Airport occurs on May 7th. And that's just an average, a 30-year average. There's a lot of variance. Last year, we had our last freeze on the 29th of April. But in recent years, we've had some pretty late ones. May 23rd back in 2015. We matched that date in 2013 as well. Now, this is the date of the last 32-degree reading. When we talk about kind of a hard freeze, generally we think of that as temperatures under 30. Down into the 20s. We're sneaking up on the 30-year average coming up in a week. The 30-year average last temperature in the 20s is on April 24th. But again, there's a variance here. Some years pretty late, some years pretty early. Last year we hit the last sub-30 reading on the 21st of April. When we kind of look at this a different way, when we look at the percent chances of a last freeze having occurred by certain dates, again, this is based on the past. On today's date, only a 10% chance that we've seen our last freeze of the season. Of course, as we go towards the end of April and into May, these odds really increase pretty rapidly. And by the end of May, the latest freeze on record, I think, around here is the 28th, maybe the 29th of May. But that's definitely an anomaly. Most of our last freezes, occur late April, early May. Now, what about this year? As of today's date, I would put our odds of having seen the last freeze already at about 30 to 40%. I don't want to go over 50 just yet because it's still pretty early from a climatological standpoint. But that being said, it's a pretty mild forecast for the next at least week, if not a couple of weeks. I don't see a lot of abnormal chill coming our way, the kind of chilly air masses that would produce some freezes. So I don't want to say, go ahead and plant everything. It's too early to say that, but I like what I see as far as warmth in the longer range. All right, we have a chance of hitting 80 tomorrow. Our forecast is 78. Not going to be shocked if we do a 79 or an 80. If we hit 80, that would be about 4 days ahead of the 30-year average, first 80-degree temperature of the season. Now, last April was cold, of course, but we actually had a pretty early 80-degree day on the 13th. Too bad that didn't last very long. But the average, again, is April 22nd. Back in 2012, we had a remarkably warm March. We had a couple of 80-degree temperatures in late March back in 2012. So we've got a chance tomorrow. We hit 73 today. Notice again today where the lake breeze set up, 58 Erie, 61 Hopkins Airport in Cleveland, but 70 south of there. And that's a pretty typical map for this time of the year. Now, last year on this date, it was a lot colder than today. Almost 40 degrees colder, in fact. It was the coldest high temperature on record. The record low maximum, if you will, for today's date was set last year. Only 34 back in 2018 on today's date. All right, the warmth today came despite a relative lack of sun. We had some sunny intervals, but I think clouds won out more often than sunshine today, and it remains fairly cloudy this evening. We'll probably get into some clearing for a time late this evening into parts of the overnight. Notice there's a couple of actually some chilly thunderstorms, elevated convection, if you will, up across Michigan this evening, where temperatures are on the cool side, but they're getting some thunder and lightning. And speaking of thunder and lightning, pretty big severe weather outbreak has initiated and will continue all evening into parts of the night tonight. Severe thunderstorm watches extend from the panhandle of Texas through Oklahoma, Kansas, western Missouri as well. And right now the main threat is hail. There's been a few tornado warnings, but these are big plains hailers, producing some baseball-size hail in some of these storms that are warned in parts of Texas and Oklahoma this evening. And all of this will start translating east, and so while it's quiet right now in Dallas, it'll be a stormy night down in the Metroplex and all the way down to Austin and San Antonio. It's going to be a pretty stormy night, and everything shifts east on Thursday. Pretty good severe weather outbreak, pretty likely in the lower Mississippi Valley, the Gulf Coast region, and then by Friday this shifts into a Carolinas, Georgia, Florida problem, especially the eastern part of the Carolinas, southeast Virginia around the Tidewater as well. All right, back here at home. Boy, what a day tomorrow. Outside chance of a quick 5-minute shower tomorrow. It's like a 10-20% chance kind of a thing. I think most of us stay dry and temperatures off to the races. Take advantage of tomorrow because Friday, our front kind of stalls, an area of low pressure forms along it, and this will be the beginning of a pretty unsettled 48-hour period. Rain and drizzle from time to time on Friday. Temperatures probably fall Friday afternoon as we get into more of a northerly flow here. So we'll probably reach our high by late morning on Friday, up around 60, 61, 62, and then tumble back through the 50s in the afternoon. Now this system is going to kind of cut off in the upper levels, meaning the surface low then will kind of backtrack and retreat, a retrograding low, if you will. And what that means for us, boy, cool and clammy and damp Saturday. I have raised our high temperature Saturday. It's not going to be quite as cold as I thought earlier, but it's still going to be chilly, especially when it's raining on Saturday. Rainfall forecast on our modeling here as we look at Thursday night through Saturday. Be a little more rain coming our way Saturday night, but through Saturday at about 7 p.m., probably an average of about 3/4 of an inch to an inch worth of rain. As I've been talking about, though, things are looking up for Easter. Now, when we talk about historical Easter weather, the warmest occurred back in 1976 when Easter was on the 18th. 87 degrees that day. Coldest, 20 degrees for a high back on the early Easter of 1940, March 24th. Snowiest was in 1994, and last year was a pretty chilly one. We did have under an inch worth of snow towards the evening hours last year on Easter. Easter was on April 1st last year, but it was just 2 years ago that we had 77, and then 3 years ago we had a 76. Back in 2014, we had a 73. We've had some warm Easters lately, and Easter this year will probably be much more typical. We haven't had a seasonable Easter since 2015, and this year I think will be much closer to the average, so our forecast hasn't changed a whole lot. We're talking lower 60s on Easter, and I can't rule out a shower, but it's certainly going to be a better day than we're going to have Friday, and we're going to have on Saturday as well. All right, tomorrow evening, Thursday evening on Weather for Weather Geeks, I'll show you the latest European long-range temperature forecast data for the end of April and as we head into the month of May. So we'll take a long look at the long range on Thursday. Hope you'll join us then and hope you have a great Wednesday night.